Right, thanks, Jim. Yeah, Mark, if you could pull it up. PowerPoint. All right, so like I said, Jim did steal like my whole intro. Yeah. But just kind of repeating a little bit of what he said. Yeah, it actually came out, we had a board retreat back in January 2020. We were discussing like the possibility of art in the Canary-Recon Park District and how we should take this. And then in February, the following month of 2020, the board decided that, hey, it's more than just like a sculpture or a piece of artwork. There's like so many different issues to talk about. It's not something we could just like do. So that's why we formed the ad hoc committee. And then the ad hoc committee, when we got together, like Jim said, we had it was a lot of fun. You know, we had rec staff there, and, my staff was there, and Sue and Nellie were there. And it was kind of neat. You got energized because sometimes it's so inherent in our process and our thoughts, it happens organically. So it's kind of interesting what we came up with, and we kept on writing things. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. How are we going to do this? What are we going to do? And then we even expanded it upon that, because we started with art, education, history for like we're the almost tangible things. And then, the rec staff said, well, we have programs that support art, education, and history. I think that should be included too. And they said, well, we also have partners that deal with it too. So that's why it went from just talking about sculptures and paintings to educate. So now it's art, education, history, and supporting programs and community partnerships in the Canary-Recon Park District. So what's the best way to talk about this? So what can it be? And I think when we look at ourselves, and just anybody, it's just like they would say, art is in the eye of the beholder, or even education and history is in the eye of the beholder, and how you convey the message and what you try to get across. It could be formal. It's a painting. Everyone knows, oh, that's supposed to be art. It could be informal, meaning it's just something, just something that you don't even know you're doing it. It's happening. Or it's functional. Like when we try to do projects, we might do like a seat wall. It's really cool looking, but it's also can be used to sit on. And then sometimes it's really direct and in your face, like a musical or a cultural production. Or sometimes it's really subtle. You don't even really notice it. So one of the things we thought was a really good example to take a look at is just your journey here tonight. When you drove up the hill, this is a historic structure. I don't know if you knew that, or not historic, it's art structure. I don't know if you guys knew that, if you were here at the time when this was built. This was the eyebrows on the hill. And oh, how wonderful and beautiful it is. And it was built by or designed by a ship's architect. I don't know if you know that. If you look at especially if you look at the ceiling tiles, not necessarily in here, but more in our offices, it's slightly curved, ever so slightly curved. The building, you can't really tell from the outside, but from the inside, you could tell it's curved. And it's supposed to be, they call it the eyebrows and hill. It's watching down upon the city of Thousand. So as you came up here, you saw that. And then you parked your car. And then when you were walking down the steps, even though it was dark, who was on the side of the steps? Parker, right? Our partnership with the Arts Council of the Canal Valley. So he's out there. So we actually got like a sculpture out there. And then most of you did come through here, but traditionally we would go through the hallway. And what do we usually have there? Artwork. Very good, Chuck. $5 for you. So you go through our gallery, and then when you're in here, I don't know if you guys even if you remember this. This podium. This podium was handmade from old Dos Vianos barnwood. I don't know if you know that. So that was something we did a few years ago because we thought it was kind of cool. And you look at it in our board meetings, and no one's pointing out every single time, look at that piece of art, look at that piece of art. It's a very functional, beautiful, subtle, informal piece of art. So again, art is all over the place within the Canary-Recon Park District. So let's talk about the process that we go through when we have any sort of projects, or even with programming too. And it doesn't matter, small, large, new buildings, new parks, or even just renovations. Every single project to some extent has a process that we go through with art. And I don't say, it's not a formal checklist. We don't have a checklist. We say, oh, did we do this? Did we do that? Did we do that? No, it's just something that's ingrained upon our DNA as recreation professionals and park planners. This is something we always talk about. So, and then we always welcome, whether it's a board member has an idea for something, or it's a citizen we've never even talked to before. They have said, oh, this would be really cool if you did that. Oh, that's a good idea, and we'll incorporate, if it really works. So I'll go through the process. I'm going to use McCray Ranch as an example as we go, show you or remind you how we went through the process for that. Now, McCray Ranch, awesome facility. Took a hell of a lot of work to figure out what we were doing there and how we were going to do it. We sat down with Wyatt at the beginning, and our staff and Wyatt, well, brainstorming. What do we want this to be? We were dreaming, just what could it be? How do we want to present it? Where can we go with this? And what kind of programs we want to do? So that goes into the questions. We asked her, we didn't know right away it wasn't like, oh, we know we want to do a visitor center. Remember too, this started as we were going to have the lake and a conference center and all. Yes, sir. You got a question? I
was just going to comment that originally the house right next door was bunkhouse. No, anyway,
the caretaker's house was
going to be the
right.
Visitor center.
Right. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's exactly right. So that's
art history.
Thank you for stealing my thunder there. That's okay.
Oh no,
yeah, it's okay.
I did it.
It's okay.
I get money too?
Yes, you get. No, you give Chuck $5 for one night. So we were dreaming because sort of the master plan originally had, like I said, was getting back, take 2 steps back, had a lake and a conference center and all these other different amenities, because that's what the board had envisioned with the staff beforehand. And so now so we were starting from scratch. What do we want this to be? So we asked us all sorts of questions on what we want to do with it. And then we decided, hey, let's have some sort of hub visitor center, and it expands from there. And as George so correctly pointed out, one of the things we looked at, we go, oh my, the caretaker's residence, perfect, exact same size, what we want. This is going to be great. This is going to be awesome. And we had some friends from the City of Thousand Oaks building officials go, you're going to spend every single dime you have on making that place safe for people. Just build something right next to it. We're like, good idea, thanks. So again, getting input from everybody who's out there. We did so much research. We took staff and Wyatt and our consultant went out to many different places and asked, well, how do you do it? How do you present things? We went to the William S. Hart House. We went to Will Rogers Estate. And I'm even trying to remember some other places we went, but it was fun. That was so much fun doing that. Just asking them, what do you do and how do you do it? And learn, because learn some things that we didn't know about. They're just in a nutshell. I remember the gal from the Will Rogers said, you don't want just a house, because people are going to go to the house and say, cool, and they're not coming back. Because it's just, I've seen the house. You've got to have more than just a house. You've got to have interpretive panels and all these other educational things out there. We said, good, thank you for that idea. And then the amount of research and data that we had we had thousands and thousands of pictures that Wyatt had. We had, I think it was 65 hours of audio tape that we had to go through. And doing all that research and digitizing that to preserve all that, and then to actually, you've all seen it's almost a 13-minute movie. That 13-minute movie, probably took, I don't know, a couple hundred man hours, maybe even 1,000 man hours of going through things to pick out the right photo that goes with the audio that when Joel was talking, and then, getting Bruce Boxleitner involved to be the MC of the movie. Tons of work went into that. And so then some input from users and partners. What we did with that, who else but to go to, we went next door to National Park Service and said, give me some help. How do you guys do it? And so a lady over there who has since, Amy Yee, she has since retired. She was in charge of their visitor centers in the area. She gave us so much recommendations and guidelines and things to do, and looking through our data, giving us so much help. Wyatt would talk to potential partners that he had, that the context that he has out there. We also talk to the Stagecoach Museum. How do you do these things? It's amazing the amount of thought that goes into it. Like I said, I love museums, I love national parks, but actually to be on the other side and actually put one together, oh, that's a lot of work, a lot of fun, but it's a lot of work. It just, even for example, talking to Amy next door, and I was, oh man, I've been to every national park, west of in Mississippi, and I'm the type of guy who'll read everything, and my family hates me for it. And that's not funny. But Amy was talking to me, she's telling me about colors and what draws, all these other different things. You're like, just blowing your mind that, no, you just don't put it down in a text and you're done. She's like, no, here's all the things you got to think about. And the placement. And like I always like to show everybody too, like next time you go to McRae, if I haven't done this for you, when you're going from the like the administrative area or the lobby, for lack of a better word, before you go to the exhibit area, when you're looking, if I'm looking at in the middle is the thing of Joel with the lasso above him, and Amy made us do this. When you're looking at this, you see the words Joel McRae, Joel McRae, Joel McRae. Very subtle, but you see it in 3 different areas before you walk into the room. So your brain tells you you're in Joel McRae. It's fascinating to me. Anyway, I'll continue on. But with all these things, we do continuous outreach and sharing with everybody where we are in the steps. And we're getting feedback from them, just continuous, because we don't say we're experts in this. We'd love to hear from our partners, our users, and our staff, and what needs to be done. And then so we get the feedback, and then even some of the places like you think you got it right, and you think you got it 100% right, and still at McRae there's a couple surprises, and there's good surprises. One day we showed up, and Wyatt had the idea of making a brand, the cattle brand, and sticking it into the concrete, all by himself. No one else thought of it. He said he was walking over to check on the guys one day, and says, "Hey, use this before the concrete dries. Put it here, put it there." What a great touch that was. And then even our contractor, and if you look at if you're in the big room, where we show the movies, we have those big barn doors and the wainscot that's around. The barn doors are actually supposed to be the same color as the wainscot. It's kind of a grayish color. And he did it, he put it up, and we all looked at it and go, it doesn't work. It looks bad. And okay, we'll figure it out. Then we were in the trailer talking to having a regular project meeting, and the subcontractor comes like, "You guys got to see this." "What are you talking about?" Went over there. He had water blasted the gray paint off of the barn doors, and he said, "Perfect." He goes, "I'm going to paint this stuff and then water blast it so it looks almost like the wainscoting, but it's in between. It looks natural and raw rather than brand new or perfectly painted." So total surprise, but that's something we got input from the contractor on that. So I thought that was really interesting. So that's like, again, we do go through every single project at some form. We go through this process, and we welcome everybody's input. As I said, if it works, we'll definitely do it. So where in the district do we have all these things? Now, I gave you guys a handout because, again, we could talk for hours and hours and hours about art, education, history, and supporting programming and partnerships. So there's a list that we have there of everything that we could think of, all the parks that are there. And this is our opinion on stuff. Some of the things we had, I took off, some we added back. There's a lot of opinion out there because, again, beauty, art or beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So I'll go over just some of the highlights. And if you look, so we just did quickly. So every park that's on there that has because some of them are blank, but every park that has something, we put a little dot out there. So you can see it's throughout the whole district. It's just not just in one place or just at a museum. So it is all over the place. Again, this is just our opinions. It's not to saying it's right or wrong, but it's just our opinions that we have out there. So I'll go over some of the highlights from the spreadsheet that I handed out there. Special facilities, we already talked a lot about McRae Ranch, but then even with Chumash and Stagecoach and Botanic Garden, really, it says it in a nutshell. And I'd put this on the spreadsheet. There's just too many to mention. It's ridiculous the amount of art, education, history, and programming that are out there, whether it's school tours or the sculptures in the garden. There's just so much stuff going on these facilities with our partner organizations that it's through the roof, all the stuff that we do out there. It's amazing. I'll talk about parks. Just give you some examples here. We think this is art in parks because we're parks guys. Upper left, that's Newberry Gateway Park. We love, that's that swale that the city of Thousand Oaks did. Remember, because there's no storm drain in the street there. So they took out a chunk and they did all these other different things that I think it's beautiful. I really do. It's a huge upgrade to what was there. It's totally beautiful and it's functional. The plaque over on the right-hand side is in the lobby at Borchard Community Park. Worked with the Canal Valley Historical Society to get some information from Miriam Sprankling out there. And so we put this plaque out there to give everyone an idea of, well, who is the Borchard family and why were they here? And why is this named Borchard Community Park? And why is this Borchard Road? Bottom is Sapui. Sapui's got a ton of different art things, but we took this as an aerial shot. Even the gabion walls, which are down here, these are retaining walls there. Instead of just putting CMU block wall up there, we said, this is kind of cool. This is different looking and it's neat, it's different, it's fun, it's exciting. So we think as park professionals, we think that's a pretty cool looking art out there. Other places where I think we have our most opportunities or quantity, I guess you'd say, in all our parks is our playgrounds. Our playgrounds, what we try to do, again, we put a lot of thought process into it. We try to make everyone unique. And I don't remember about your guys' kids, but my kids, it was always, I want to go to the ranch park or the farm park or the spiderweb park or, yes, sir.
Or Wildwood Fort.
Wildwood Fort, yeah, which that's why I tore it down. There's always, I mean, the kids know that. The kids don't say, I want to go to Kimber Park. They don't know what Kimber Park is. They know what the playground looks like. So we try to be a little creative, and whether it's like art, education, history, we try to incorporate some of that in almost every single playground that we do. Example here, we've got, that's at Borchard Community Park in the upper left-hand corner. We try to make it like a farm theme or ranch theme. Walnut Grove is next to that on the right-hand side. We did a car theme because it's right next to the 101 freeway. And then Spring Meadow, we thought very vibrant colors over at Spring Meadow to kind of bring out what the playground looks like. Also, we'll also have unique play elements. Dos Fianos Neighborhood Park, again, with a nod to the ranch that used to be there. We got like the little stagecoach and some farm animals. Over at Sapui, we have some activity panels, and we have where you go and take a look at the little insects, and a lot of the panels are interpretation or education, tell you what's going on so the kids can learn. What else do we got? Oh, and other playgrounds we have, one of my favorites, I'll just highlight this one on the right-hand side, Fiore, home of Canal Valley Little League. If you remember, I think most of us were at the ribbon cutting for that, but that was a baseball theme. And even taking it to the next level, it was the two baseballs and the wooden bat with nothing on the wooden bat. And I remember when they installed it, you go, I don't even know really what that is. It's supposed to be a baseball bat, but it really doesn't look like a baseball bat. So luckily in-house, we have an artiste, Tim Doer, who's very good at writing or calligraphy, I guess you'd call her, or stenciling. So if you look at just how it'd say Louisville Slugger on a regular bat, this one says Canal Valley Little League. And then we surreptitiously stole the president of Canal Valley Little League's signature and got it. And then Tim, kind of free drew it next to it. So it looks, like you would have, Cody Bellinger or someone sign a bat. So Will Hayes had signed that bat. And the best thing was, about the day or two after we did that, Will called me and I don't really, I mean, he's a good guy, but I mean, it's not like we're great friends or anything. We just worked a little bit on this project. He called me a couple of days after. He goes, I was walking to the baseball field and I just could see him. He was walking down and he went, I think that's my signature on that. And so he called us and said, I go, yep, that's for you, man. Thanks. You were the president during all this and you helped us all happen. But it's that like that finishing touch and taking it to that next level that we're really proud of, that we were able to do that. And it was, again, it was a collaboration between us, Canal Valley Little League, and even, and I said, just in-house doing it is amazing. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, supporting programming that we have out there. So what does support arts education and history? So just even, we've got, dance classes and ballet classes, which is very, cultural events at all the different community centers. We offer so many programs, whether they're music lessons or this is a culinary class. We consider that, education too, that they're learning something, they're learning skills. And then we have the special events, like this is the bottom left is the Dino Dig over at the Caneo Community Center, where they're learning quite a bit of things about history and dinosaurs through our different special events, or, touch a truck too. They hopefully learn a lot too. And then, to me, here's the wow factors of our arts education history and, that we have as far as on the recreation side. The Hillcrest Center of the Arts and the Global Adult Center just take it to the nth degree of what they do. And it's obvious, to me, obvious things, but whether with the education for the health and wellness fests or the musicals that they do, or history and music comes alive, and then the galleries that they have out there. I mean, it's just, that's what they're built for, and that's what they do. Both Scott and especially Ian do a fantastic job of bringing it to the next level. And then even now, this one just popped in my head because I was talking to Ian earlier on. In addition to performing out there, quite a few of our patrons learn how to work a soundboard and how to work a light, and doing striking and building sets and all that. So they learn so much beyond just performing. It's amazing. And I said, and the global, Patty does an amazing job out there too. And that's what her patrons crave is this type of thing. So it's fantastic the supporting programs that we have out there. And then even some other, again, we talked about McRae, they do a lot of, they do movie nights, and Crawley House, just in itself, the Crawley House is art, I think, as if it's building architecture. But we do, the therapeutic unit does, life skill classes out there. And then even our outdoor unit, whether it's in Wildwood or some other areas, doing nature hikes and summer camps, and there's just so many things that they learn, or again, sometimes it's in your face because they're sitting on an amphitheater telling you what you should be doing. And sometimes it's just learning because you're there. Let's see, what else we got here? Oh, okay, so like just kind of finishing up. So like one of the things we do too is one we're really proud of is how community driven the process is for art education and history. So here we just, an example is Banyan, we actually work, for lack of a better word, we work fairly intensely with the neighbors and the school, because the school is right next door to us, on what should we do, what should it look like, and again, asking us through that whole process. And I think the culmination when it came right down to it was I think the most formal thing, or most in your direct thing we did, was the last 10 lineal feet of a pathway, because this is how the kids from that neighborhood get to school. We decided, you know what, on the ribbon cutting day, come on kids, you can paint your own name there, do whatever you want. We had, as you can see, there's commentary, and we had our own, it was imprinted, it says, welcome to Banyan Elementary School. As you're walking that way, this way, it says, welcome to Banyan Neighborhood Park. But then the kids did their own things, and they just thoroughly enjoyed it. And to this day, it's still there. And so, the kids every day they walk to school, they get to see that. They're really proud of what they do. But so that was a fantastic partnership we had with, I said, the schools and the neighbors for that. Let's see. Oh, and then the gratitude circle, we bring that one up because we've got plaques and signage and recognition. We get comments or requests all the time from people. Well, my dad really liked this park, he'd like to put a plaque. So this is our more formal way to do it, and the good and bad. This came out of If you remember the huge major tree that was there, we had to be taken down.
Yeah.
So we went like, well, what are we going to do? That's like the center of the center, the center of the park that's in the center and the most used in the whole community. We got to do something there. It's such a beautiful place. And our former park planner, Denise Johns, came up with the idea. She was inspired by Maya Lin, who's an architect, a designer. She actually did the Vietnam Memorial Wall, but she also did something. It was a Juanita College in Pennsylvania. It was a like a peace circle, I think it was called. So that kind of inspired Denise to design this. So with, you know, from the 4 points of north, east, west, and south points, and just how you get in there and the peacefulness of it was a wonderful, wonderful project that we did. I think and much like, and we'll talk about the Healing Garden now too, but much like at Canal Creek North, I think with the Gratitude Circle, it's something that's there, and sometimes you don't even notice it. So it's kind of, we really enjoy that. Now the Healing Garden, you know, I'm going to finish with the Healing Garden because, as you well know, it's probably one of the most epic challenges that we had, and to one, you know, for a lot of different reasons, you know, from what it was born out of, and the timing we did, and what we were able to achieve and accomplish, and the amount of community input that we had, whether it was from the victims' families, from the survivors, from the sheriff's office, all the studies and research that we had to do, you know, using symbology, using numerology to represent what was out there. And then the feelings that it would instill upon people or inspire people if they visit it. But at the same time, you know, you could take someone from out of town and they could walk right past it, and to them, it's part of the park. But it does hold a special place for those people that know what it's supposed to be about. Or if someone wants to, if someone from out of town didn't know, we have our plaques there to educate them of the history of why this is here and why it's such a special place. So again, this is a huge culmination with the community, and, you know, with everybody. And I think this is really the almost like the #1 place that we've had out there that really culminates what we've been doing and how the process we go with it and who we work with. So again, you know, I talk for hours about this. Love it. Absolutely love art, education, history, and the programs that we do and all the partnerships that we have with people. You know, kudos to the ad hoc committee, to Sue and Nellie, really inspired us to, like, you know, like I said, this is fun. There's a lot of energy we're going on, and it's never going to stop. And it's always something I think we're going to continue on doing. And we think it would be behoove us to maybe on like an annual basis meet with the ad hoc committee and just kind of review where we at. And that way it'd be like a formal way to say what projects are coming up. What are you thinking about? Why are you thinking about that way? What's going on? What kind of programs do you have going on, Rochelle? That's sort of just sit down and BS for a half hour, 45 minutes about what we've done, what we're doing, and just to kind of keep it up throughout the years. And with that, I'm available for questions.
Thank you,
I didn't
Mr.
get
Hare.
any
Excellent,
claps.
excellent presentation.
Melissa? No, you're not clapping? Okay, cool. Thank you.
Director Ling, you have a question or comment?
Yes, both. And being that I was intimately involved representing the Canal Recreation and Park District for art in the community, and some of you might remember the name Lois Zena. She was the mayor at the time. She was representing the city and I was representing the Park District. We came up with that piece of art in the adult center, you know, out there with the grandpa and the 2 children reading. Yeah, 3. That was part of my contribution. But no. But that at the time was a big growing, you know, potentially growing program. And then I guess the city maybe canceled that particular program. I don't know. But that was a collaborative effort. We also had, there's nobody from the school district that I remember on a core committee, but then we had, you know, opportunities for the community to come in and make comments on the little, come on, art people. um, Models, but they're called Zuettes or,
Little models that, like, which
yeah,
one they like.
there's a name for it. I should remember.
Does anyone know a sculptor?
No.
Well, we know what you're talking about.
Anyway, the community was invited for, I don't know how many days to come and look at those models and then make their comments. And that was the winning one that we ended up with. But that's right on our property, in front of the adult and teen center areas. And it wasn't noted on your sheet.
I apologize. We tried to get them all. We tried to get them all, but I don't know if we got them all, so.
But anyway,
Yep.
that's art in the community, and I don't know if that makes sense for the Park District to kind of initiate that program again with the city.
Well, the city has their own program, and that they actually have a process that goes through with art in the community. And so that's one of the discussions we had with the ad hoc committee, was similar to what you're bringing up right now. And we said that, and I'm speaking for Directors Holt and Cusworth here, but one of the things is like, hey, we have so much and we do so much, to have a formalized program like the city does. It's fairly cumbersome, and it would probably require more staff work to do that, to actually get like yours might have been a one-off, but the city, I was very involved with the Huberth Memorial that used to be up here. Remember the tree that was here and that got moved over to City Hall. I was very involved with that. It was a cumbersome, difficult process. Some of the other things that the city has done, same thing that was involved. It's fairly, and then it's like you're never right. You could say, half the people say I like this and the other half of people say I like that, and why did you pick this and why did you spend this money, my taxpayer money? So we were saying, let's think about that's why we did this presentation, and let's think more organically of that. There's so many hundreds and hundreds of things that we do out there, whether it's through programming or our partnerships or actually put into the parks, that we felt like we do enough, and rather than having a formalized program and having statues in the park.
Okay.
Thank you. Director Cusworth?
So I appreciate that your enthusiasm for all of this was so incredibly visible. It was like a child talking about their first trip to Disneyland.
I can talk about that too.
You just, it was exuding from every portion of your body. So, of course, this is my thing completely. And I recognize, of course, all of our community partners and everything, because that's what brought me to CRPD. That's what I love. And I did want to say, this is actually building is a historical landmark. It's on the historical landmark tour.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if it was or not, because it's
Yeah.
a city building, yeah.
It is a historical landmark, so I forgot which one it is. But in reference to a lot of what George was saying, I think that a lot of what we do and what I was interested was doing subtle things that would bring more art history and education into the park so that people are getting that without really knowing it. Because of course we have all of our partners. If you want to know about history, you can go to Stagecoach Inn, but somebody has to consciously do that. But if they just walk into the Borchard Center and there's something about the Borchards, that's kind of an unconscious thing that they're doing. Or if there was an artifact about the Borchards that was somewhat sculptural, a plow or something that was at the Borchard Center with something, that's an unconscious way to bring history into the community. And the same with art. I was at, this is just an idea I'm throwing out, may not happen. I was down in LA and they had a park that had a bunch of these outdoor meant for park musical instruments. And I thought, oh, we're going to be redoing the Canal Community Park. That might be a cool thing because we have concerts there. And, you know, it's like meant to be outside and do, I think they might have some like
Yep, we have
that
some at
over
Old
there at
Meadows.
Marcy's,
Old Meadows.
don't they?
Old Meadows
Yeah,
does, and
Old
we
Meadows.
probably have about 1 or 2 other playgrounds that have that.
Yeah. So those are kind of cool things. Again, you're bringing the art in, you're making it interactive. It's very subtle. It's like what I said, people can go to the Botanic Garden. They're meaning to go to the Botanic Garden. But Banyan Park is actually a Botanic Garden. All it needs is signs. And so simple things to add like that, though I still wouldn't mind formal things like a sculpture, but you know, we'll see about that. We didn't want to start throwing a bunch of sculptures in here at the parks. It would have to be a need and a thought and a reason that you would have something. But also just space, like here we have gallery space, and it was just somewhat to just think like, okay, we're going to be building a new building over at Caneo Community. Do we want to have space there for some sort of gallery? Do we want to do that? Is there space for that? Do we want to have some sort of a timeline that'll bring in history? Do we want to have some type of, you know, educational portion? It's just something to always be thinking about, which is, I think, as Tom has said, you know, especially with our landscape architecture and everything, our parks are already incredibly artistic. We've incorporated all these things, but that doesn't mean that it's something you can't still continually be thinking about and adding to very simple, subtle touches that just add so much more. I mean, even in there, it didn't have to be a gallery right there, but somebody coming to go and talk at the parks or do something, hey, they're all of a sudden there, you know, oh, we've got art. We didn't have to go to an art gallery. We've got it right here that people didn't even anticipate doing. So I really appreciate your enthusiasm, Tom. This is something I highly believe in because our parks are public space, and subtly bringing in art history and education is a really nice movement. It's not just a place to go and play. It's a place that you can also learn. And so thank you very much. It's a wonderful presentation. And I'm glad that you were inspired at our meeting. I kind of felt like it was not that inspiring, but obviously by your stance, you're very inspired. So thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I make a real quick comment?
Yes, you may. Go ahead.
Okay, talking about the Caneo Community Center and little gallery, or possibly something that would bring back history. That was the very first community center that was really used as a community center. You know, Old Meadows had the meeting rooms and different things, and Casey Kasem, one of the big draws of the day, used to perform, and, you know, hundreds and hundreds of people would show up for his performances there. So I can see, you know, history of the old Caneo Community Center somehow depicted in some way or some room.
You know, maybe, again, you can't put everything everywhere.
No, it's
It's
a
just
thought.
like Tom was saying with McCrae Ranch, you kind of brainstorm, you're kind of thinking of different things, but then this would be one of the things that we'd bring into the brainstorming. Hey, how are we bringing in art? How are we bringing in this? How are we bringing in this? Can't do it all. Or, you know, maybe, do we want to have a sculpture here? Do we want to have a fountain here? Do we want to have these things here? How are we bringing it into our park? Which they're doing, but I was just saying, you can always do more. Subtle things. So yeah, it's a lot of good stuff.
Thank you. Director Holt, did you have any questions or comments?
No, I don't.
Okay. Director Huffer.
No, just thanks for the presentation, and as Melly said, your enthusiasm is well appreciated.
Yeah, I knew if I let everybody else talk that I wouldn't have to talk so long. So thank you, Mr. Hare, for that. I was also thinking along the lines as Director Cusworth that the parks themselves, in my mind, are a artistic contribution on behalf of you and your staff, most recently, obviously, your predecessors, the Park District as a whole, which I think is really a great testament, because people don't really think of them as artwork, but they also realize that they just kind of fit. You know, you've talked many times about the coolest house in the neighborhood, how it just kind of is part of that, the Caneo Community Park there, and how they all just fit. And I think for the reason that we don't get a lot of complaints that how in the world did you ever figure out that this was going to go here, or that you designed it this way, that there is a lot of thought, whether it is the architecture, the structures, the landscape architecture, working with the neighborhood. I think there's a lot of that. And then what you're talking about tonight is like the finer points of, or maybe the more traditional art, or whether it's subtle or not, that you're kind of highlighting that. But I just wanted to compliment you and the staff just on your contributions to make our parks and our community artistic in whatever way that happens. And it certainly makes a big difference. So
Sure.
thank you.
I'll let it now, just like, and Andrew actually had that. Any park that he renovated, he put on there how beautiful it was and how art it was. I was like, dude,
Yeah.
yeah, I agree, but it's, that's that sort of thing. So, but no, I totally agree with you. Totally agree with you. But
Yeah.
like I said, we could go on forever of what we think is art. So.
Yeah, and I think your use of the Healing Garden is part of that, where those here in the community are intimately aware of why it's there and what it represents, and yet passersby just see it as a beautiful section of the park. And I think it's a classic example of just how the design within our parks is represented. So thank you. Director Lang, you had another comment?
One more. There's another big piece of artwork in the Canal Creek North, and that's the fountains, those pylons. Was it? A little late. Thank you.
And thank you for this list, by the way. Very, very nice. Thank you.